Good day, all. Hi, our study is about antecedents of green purchase behavior of cosmetic products and is an empirical investigation among Filipino consumers. I am Gabby, and this is Martella, and we are here to discuss how eco-friendly cosmetic goods or sustainable practice has been the recent standard of innovative practices of a business. The universal call for attention in taking care of the environment has been more pressing than ever. But the question is, what drives a consumer to purchase green products? Is it because of the care and value for the environment? Or is it the thought that natural products are more beneficial to the skin? For the industry overview, here's a brief description. Natural cosmetics are expected to rise by 3.4% from 2020 to 2023, and sustainable practices are now the catalyst for innovation in modern times. Due to the rise of concern for the environment and the impact of industrial waste and practices on the environment, sustainable purchases are aimed to support businesses with a cause and are preferred by consumers as well. In 2015, UN announced its 2030 agenda, and one of its key goals is planet protection. Natural cosmetic industries supported this agenda by implementing social, environmental, and economical aspects throughout their product and product chain. Cosmetics are roughly defined to be any product that aims to clean, topically enhance, or prevent disease or irritation on the body. For the introduction, the study have the following objectives. First is to identify what variable has the most significant correlation in the pro-environmental belief of people. Secondly, to describe how the set of variables affect personal norm, which leads to green purchasing. And lastly, a value-based approach to the green purchasing behavior, or to identify which value-based approach best influences Filipino consumers to purchase eco-friendly goods. For the research variables, I'll give the floor to Martella to discuss altruistic and hedonic value.
Thank you, Gabby. So we have 5 research variables. And as mentioned, we are focused on value orientations as green purchase motivators. So to start off, altruistic value, which is the self-transcendence value, meaning possessing a sense of empathy that drives individuals to act because they believe that it is their job to look after everyone else and protect them from environmental degradation. In so much that authors like Wang et al. Believe that it is actually the key psychographic variable to pro-environmental behaviors. But the other side is saying that it is actually self-enhancement hedonic value, that consumers are more likely to buy if they find enjoyment and satisfaction in it. So to compare, altruistic value is buying green to save everybody, and hedonic is buying green for own personal gains. To introduce the rest of the variables, Gabby?
So for pro-environmental belief, it is described to be a positive attitude that people have in doing sustainable practices and aligning their actions for the protection of the environment. For personal norm, it is the sense of obligation to align to this expectation to be environmentally concerned. And for the green purchasing behavior, it is the preference of consuming goods that are eco-friendly and pose no harm to the environment. For the conceptual framework, Martella?
And this is how the variables all fit in the conceptual framework, which we adapted from our Anchor study. Now, this framework is originally based on Stern's BBN theory, but simplified to make it relevant to the purchasing behavior of eco-cosmetics. We actually did simplify it further because in the Anchor study, they postulate that pro-environmental belief is also a mediating variable between values and personal norms. So it has both direct and indirect effects, which we found are rather impractical or not needed. So we did not include that anymore in our hypothesis. And so for our final simplified framework, they have the following four hypotheses. Altruistic and hedonic positively affects pro-environmental belief, which positively affects personal norm, culminating in the positive participation of green purchasing behavior of consumers. Moving on to the research proper, starting with the methodology, Gabby will introduce the profile of our respondents.
Respondents and composed of 114 females and 27 males. The respondents are dominantly female professionals with a salary bracket of middle class income.
We have a descriptive research design complemented by the positivist research philosophy. And like the framework, our research instrument was also adapted from the anchor study by Heine et al. In 2019. We decided to adapt it directly, adding demographic variables for a more insightful discourse. Now let us move on to our statistical results. Now let us discuss the statistical results and what does it mean for our study. So before we start with the inferential statistics, we would like to point out that in our descriptive statistics, variables, pro-environmental belief, and personal norm did not follow a normal distribution. It was too negatively skewed and too narrowly centered, meaning that most of the responses were rated 4 or 5, that individuals scored themselves high on these constructs. And so we had to transform them with the boxcocks to follow a normal distribution as much as possible in order for us to proceed with Pearson's correlation. Now, moving on to the actual Pearson's correlation results, we can see here that all hypotheses were statistically supported. But if you notice, altruistic scored weakly, and thus it has been decided that it is not as a significant determinant for pro-environmental belief. To substantiate the findings, Gabby will share our regression results.
So for the regression analysis, after the evaluation of the F-value and R2, it is important to evaluate the regression beta coefficients. The basic principle of this is when the value of the coefficient is closer to 1, the more significant the association is. The table showcases that hedonistic value is more influential in a pro-environmental belief significantly impacts personal norm and possesses a very low possibility of it being a random occurrence, even with a sample size of 140. Lastly, the personal norm has a moderate significance in predicting green purchase. It has a high coefficient, which showcases that the more individuals feel obligated to purchase responsibly, the higher the chance of pushing through an eco-friendly product. The result suggests that even though buyers feel obligated to buy, they will not push through with the product. So moving on, Martella.
To conclude, between the two, hedonic is more likely to influence pro-environmental beliefs, which is consistent with the studies by Sony and Ferguson. And that, unsurprisingly, personal norm has the highest influence over green purchasing behavior, just as Joshi and Ramal in 2015 and Huang et al. In 2020 assert that this is especially prevalent in individuals who possess a strong sense of moral obligation or feel that it is their responsibility to protect the environment, which is true to the respondents of the study. And more importantly, it is found that there is high purchasing intent, but low purchasing behavior. And Barbarossa and Pastor say this is because of external barriers. This can be in the form of a limited budget or factors outside our scope of study, such as the individual having an allergic reaction to the ingredients in the product. This connotes that green products are not as accessible besides being derived from natural ingredients. So what is the managerial implication of the findings? That when promoting a product, especially an eco-cosmetic brand, perhaps it's best to appeal to the personal benefits. Focus on how Focus on how customers can benefit from it. Relate your communications on how conventional cosmetics advertise theirs. Because the reason we seek cosmetics in the first place is self enhancement. So, unless your key brand identifier is a social responsibility centric eco cosmetic brand, let's prioritize on the egoistic value sphere to drive green purchase. And that is it for our study. If you have any concerns or questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you and have a nice day.